Hello! So this is an overview of the current project you see in front of you. There's going to be a little bit of difference. So it's not going to be sold because this is actually what actually was created using a lot of assets from the Unreal Marketplace and various other free assets I got from the web. And also it is an art test, so I don't want any conflict of interest. So yeah, basically that's that. And there's not going to be any beautiful uh, overarching video showcasing this, even though I could. But let's say time-wise, there's not going to be one at this moment in time. But let's get into it. So this actually is an art test for a studio. Which studio? Currently unimportant. And I have no information regarding any project that the studio has at the moment, so do not think this is showcasing anything currently or in future development or basically whatever. But as an artist, I got a brief. I had received one picture, and the brief was, I'm gonna mix it up a bit, old abandoned city and rundown. That basically explained the picture that I had after, let's say, an event. The event was not mentioned, but yeah, that's basically everything I got from it. So let's get into it. The picture that I received looked like it was from a hot. Oh, is it? Oh, it's working fine. Was from a hot environment, so it can either be any coastal city. It can be, let's say, Mexico. It can be Portugal, Spain, Croatia, Italy. Uh, Hell, a lot of places. So for the art test, I decided to go with a city that I actually visited, and it's called Piran in Slovenia. So I'm gonna go through it. So this is the yeah. So this is the area that I decided to recreate. See this street here that goes into that street there. So as you can see, we started over there. Here, there's more of a street there, and there's a street here. If you go here, you already see this is the area where we started and the area that I was going for. And you can already see I had a lot of the street planned. Basically, it was a one-to-one recreation in a certain case, just in case I wanted to do it. But I had 10 days to do this, so I kind of just skipped it and decided to go my own way. So, my original plan for this was to start with creating the city, as I said, as it is, one by one, and then slowly develop it to see what fits, what looks interesting, and let's say to give it a bit more of a story and where I can, let's say, improve things. Hmm. So basically, as you can see here, these buildings are damaged, and but you don't know how long. But originally they looked like this. So they were pristine, renovated buildings, and of course, after an event or abandonment, that an old city in general, the pipes start to burst. Weather events start to, let's say, uh, dirty up the streets, the buildings themselves. And I kind of wanted to play into that. Like, they're not destroyed, but they're gonna get run down, and some more than others. And during that event, I thought, like, oh, maybe the streets were getting renovated, much like everything during COVID these days. A lot of old buildings, streets, and cities are getting renovated, so we have this like a huge amount of squares, areas that are just like completely new, renovated, and some in development. And that's how I kind of like wanted to do the story, as in, oh, they were renovating things, some were still in renovation, abandoned midway, and just left to rot basically in the state they are now. But we're moving fast, or in front of ourselves. Words. So as you can see, this is the first major difference here. In the original, well, let's say here, it is basically flat. It is basically flat to the entire thing, and there's a street. And I just didn't think it looked interesting, so I just pushed it a little bit back. And as you can see, there's a lot of stone. So a lot of these old buildings or old coastal cities are based on or made on stone, well, stone grounds and from stone as a base material. Even on the back here, you see a lot of it. Even on these buildings here, like you see some of the stones showing through. And I thought it'd be a good way to think like, okay, if it's new and renovated and it's old, let's say heritage cultural areas, during renovation, a lot of times they're gonna like, okay, we're gonna leave some of the stone but renovate everything around it. So this, you see, is how it looks underneath all the new facade and building material, with old portions left intact, some new, let's say, pillars where, let's say this was on the front of the building. So like, let's expose this but make it prettier. And even here, as a nod to the original, it is completely, well, it is completely flat here, saying, oh yeah, this is where the original building stood. Like this could be like the baseline supports or whatever construction terms, and just pushed in. It leaves a lot to to think about. And it goes the same way with the other one here. This one just, I don't know, completely messed up or it's destroyed. And as you can see, it is renovated, but through time a pipe burst, weather happened or something. But this part is not as damaged to weather as any other part because it's, let's say, to the side. But there's a lot of rain dripping down. Like this part is more destroyed here, even this here. Storytelling. While this one is just, yeah, it's getting messed up, but more like this. So it's wind coming like this. This side a little bit destroyed. Okay. Here in the original, there was a building here, and also in my design plan, there was supposed to be like this fortress or, let's say, big house here, which looked good, but I thought everything felt so cramped. Like the goal here was to do 3 good pictures, like 3 images, and I thought, looking at this, the building was supposed to be somewhere like this, so it obscures a lot of it. Actually, looking at this now, this looks actually pretty good. Actually, it looks kind of better. Well, shoot. Anyway, I had a different plan. I decided to have a big open area and maybe set up a marketplace here. So this, let's say this was the old marketplace area, so it has steps. So this was like a actual building with a roof, and yeah, I wanted to have it be nice and open because there's a lot of actually places like this. If you go in Piran, Tertini Square, it's like a big area like this. And a lot of them in Croatia, especially in Rijeka, which I've been there a lot of times. And since this is an old place, of course, the concrete is still here. The stones are still here. The original tiled floor, whatever it is still here. And to not damage it, of course, I put a tarp and the mixer here and a table to work on. Now you're asking yourself, oh, why is this blue? A different shade of blue. Well, this is actually like meant to protect something that is beneath it and you can put on top of it. While this one is for a, let's say, reusable or one and done cover plastic or fabric looking thing. As you can see, it has a lot of folds, and a lot of these things are well, depending on the material you use for this, are either transparent, see-through, or very, let's say, opaque. And I went with an opaque thing because it just looked better. And this way, with the light blue, it's like, okay, it's sun bleached, it's getting used, it's getting destroyed. It looks nice this way. Here we have a skip full of material, symbolizing or story-wise, it's like, oh, this thing is getting cleared out from the inside out and getting, let's say, materials put on. Oh, I actually didn't put a texture on it. Oh well, don't notice it. At the same time, you have like another mixer here on uncovered stone, porta potties, and like the middle section is still covered somewhat because the bottom portion was, as you can see already, somewhat finished. You can even see the original material below it. You can see the frescoes, stone carvings, details, whatever. These things are renovated, so they're uncovered and they have to go in and out, as well as the top, but the top is exposed to the elements, so of course the top is gonna rust, or let's say get discolored sooner than anything else, and of course the higher you are, the more winds there are. While the middle section is getting its installation placed on, and the original colors like scraped off and pressure and fixed up. Now what else you can see is well, the hole here, we're gonna ignore it. There's a drainage system. Now that actually is an oversight on my part, I just noticed it. But while they're working on it, they're gonna put everything around it. And as it was raining, water was flowing down here and trash was collecting because of the winds, coastal cities, winds, remember? A lot of trash got caught here on the edge. And because there's a lot of water going here, a lot of plants are starting to grow and also rot because of too much water. This is coastal after all. And the same goes for this here. It's just a pile and it's rotting, as well as here. Except the difference here is this building here, a few of the windows, not window sills, blinds, covers, wherever, they fell down. And as trash was piling up, some plants actually started sprouting outside of it. But the difference here is because this is still old, let's say, tile, you can actually still see some green moss looking thing. I said, well, because there's not so much water here but still a lot of sun, they're still, let's say, growing normally. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, this originally was supposed to be closed off, as I think I wanted to portray this as an event happened fairly recently, let's say months to a year, and it actually was so interesting to look at, but it served no purpose, as in closing off from either there are dead people inside, things are falling apart, construction wise, something. And as soon as I broke off everything, I noticed that I made a nice little trail with the covers here, either go right or go left because of this gate, and it actually serves as in, this is a nice looking building, but you should go either one or the other direction. Now this is actually really well blocked off. It used the door. Now here we have lights. They're very dirty, transparent, and there's no light bulb, but I pulled them out from a different project that had the Majestic, which it was also a coastal area, so I reused that. It works. But I also missed something. Oh yeah, the drainage system. Because, well, drains these days are not from copper. They can be either plastic or galvanized metal, so they're very rust resistant. And so I thought, like, okay, whatever happened, but since they're not rusty or cannot rust, they're not gonna fall down or get destroyed, because if buildings are, let's say old buildings, they're still standing, as we obviously saw on the, let's say this here, let's go further here. these are still in their original state, like maybe 80 years old or 60 years old or something like it. They still work, they're not destroyed, and even the original drains are in action, so these things shouldn't fall apart immediately. And because of an event that took place, either everybody left or the metal is not worth reclaiming. God, it's getting hot. 34 today or 5. So, let's go forward. So, as I said, it takes this place either takes you right or left. So we come here to this area. This is, I would say, my favorite part because it's cramped but a lot of personality. Already here, you see a flag. From this perspective, we're like, okay, there's something happening here. It's pointing me to this direction, either from the light or from the scaffolding itself. And there's also this renovated plaque thing. No, not fresco. Fresco is a color thing. Let's say marble. Again, put up on display with the original, let's say, stone brick foundations. These are actually really nice. Intact. And a little bit of feel for the 50s or 60s or maybe even 80s when they started putting like new age things on the street because, well, houses need power. Transformers, sorry. And if you look at it from this angle, you see wires going from house to house. Like, okay, people lived here. This was an active city. Rural, not touristy, but apparently there was some preservation of culture. And originally I wanted to put like a touristy plaque, but then I thought it's actually going to take too much away from everything else. It's actually going to take your eye towards it and just ignore everything else. So it's like, leave it. And this area in particular is like, okay, we have the old doors here, like old, let's say, city doors that used to either block off the top portion on, let's say, this was either a castle or a wall or just top part of the street, because coastal cities are on, let's say on more stepped areas. As you can tell, like, there's a lot going on here. So I went with that. Also, there's not that much dirt here, but the more you go into it, the more dirt and stuff you see piling up here. Like, because dirt usually goes into like certain areas, or let's say trash and stuff. And here you can see again the nice little clump that is apparently floating. Yeah, we're gonna ignore that. And again, more drainage coming here, rotting everything, making everything dry, overly moist dyes, not overly dried. But on this transformer here, whatever, apparently a little bit of dirt came, and there's enough sunlight, as you can see, that it actually grows, while this is in the shade. And everything is going around the drainage system, as always. And this door is broken. Either they wanted to do something with it or just like chucked it somewhat like this. You might say that it's looks like it's fallen down from here. Maybe it is, maybe it didn't. But yeah, it just looks much nicer this way. And if you look here, there's a lot of buildings again, abandoned. Windows falling, windows covers, shades falling down. And apparently there was like either flags or just maybe there was a celebration or something taking you into that direction, which is of course nice and bright, like, yeah, go this way, which was, I wouldn't say planned, but happy a little accident. It took a player or the eye into that specific direction. And as you can see, there's something growing on here, like, and the brighter it is, you can actually see they're bigger because of more sun, and tinier here on the edges, and basically nothing here because there's no sun, only heat. And originally I wanted to make like a nice little picture here, or let's say a video of it, but this is just a nice little passing thing. Like, if it would have, this is a much nicer and interesting picture to take than this one here. Like, yeah, he's going here. It's a nice set piece, which, oh, you would come here, fade to black, whatever. But there's a lot more work to do here if I wanted to make it work. And yeah, also the street here, as you can see, there's nothing here. This is a bit floaty, but you don't see this. And there's nothing here, an extra floor, but you can't see through this. So basically you see what's on the other side. Also here and here. Now, a little bit back here. So as you can see, the street was made to look identical to this one, a little bit different. And even had these like doors here and pathways made, finalized, and on hinges, properly textured, because I wanted to point out this street. Like, this is a nice like angle, whatever, but it's just so much work that I would probably need about a week more to actually make it work. But so yeah, I abandoned this, I think after half a day of work, like 4 or 5 hours. Like, that's too much. I realized it, and I just like went a different direction because I wanted to focus on a specific area. Another cool detail here, after some things were happening, maybe somebody cleared this area off, or let's say wind, whatever, blew things off. There's a bucket full of paint, and it just splashed down, like, oh, it was slowly dripping. And because this one here has folded, there's a little bit of detail, like, oh, there's paint here. So apparently out there it was connected here, dripping down, and then just disconnected completely, leaving the rest of the paint here and accumulating on this spot. Actually, I should have just, I could have flipped this. It's going around. Yes. Because if it's blowing from the outside inward, it actually would have had to been this to be more correct, but hey, it's a nice detail to notice, like, retrospectively. Also, most of the houses here have numbers corresponding with, let's say, streets here, but I'm not really focusing on which is which, but it's nice that they have them. Adds a little bit of something to them. And this one is Dante Ulza. Dante. Yeah. I think this is it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions regarding this project, freely ask them. I wish I could have released the... Oh, wait. Almost went too fast. A big portion of why I got this art test was when I was talking to the developers. They said basically a lot of my projects are lacking, let's say, the final percent, or let's say 10%, and have, let's say, a bit more are lacking in story, which, let's say, I agree to a certain point, or smaller details, which I completely agree. So I got this art test because of that, because this actually gives you a lot to work with, like a lot to think about what is actually going on or what happened. And it was actually a really nice experience trying to figure out how to tell a story and how to make a rundown city, old, abandoned. Also, all the projects, or let's say most of the projects I did because of, let's say, time that I had to make them after work. You don't really want to always like do it perfect. Always just set up everything in Blender and then just export to Unreal and put on the textures and lighting and everything else. There, goddamn window, no door, scared me. Basically, there wasn't a lot of putting objects into place besides, let's say, smaller details, like, let's say, these things, or cans, or let's say a light fixture. but the walls themselves all were placed in Blender, then just chucked into Unreal as a set piece, a single object. So a lot of this was see how I work with modularity. Let's go into this. How did I almost forget about this? So as you can see, all of these things are modular and can be replaced with basically anything. So let's say I want to see where this is, cool, and I'm gonna replace this with this. It all fits, it all perfectly textured. It doesn't make sense, but if I wanted to put a window in this location, let's say for example this, like this. Whoops, forgot the wall. Boop. Honestly, it freaking works. Yeah, design wise, it actually really works. Everything is modular. Basically as much as it can be. The same goes for the scaffoldings. It's all stepped and popped into place. Of course, it's not the walls, or let's say the distances were set to, let's say, I think 3-meter grid, and because it's on 50 it goes like half a meter or something like it, but the heights were different for some of these things, but these were for a step of, let's say, 5 and then 50 and so on and so forth. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, everything is modular, and the textures are tileable. Blah 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 blah. Even the plastic here is tileable. Yep, there you go. So even if I want to exchange it for this one, I just have to find this and replace it, and it falls into place. Not the first time I've done it, but the first time I've actually done it this effectively, you know. Some are a bit more jank, like they're floating because of, let's say, I had 10 days to finish it, had to figure out a workflow, and also did simulations for cloth, basically curtain simulations. Nothing I would like to go in depth about here, but yeah, everything works. Top of the morning. What I would like to point out actually is the wiring system here. I'm actually really proud of figuring this approach out. Basically, a lot of these buildings go from one to the other and actually double the wiring amount. And even in the real thing, like, there are some wires that are thickened, doubled, or let's say go from one to the other. Actually, they're a lot lower than I expected, so I guess that's a mistake, but safety first. They're in a way that I didn't want people to accidentally touch, so they're all outside of people's reach. Go from a building to building. And I devised it this way, that I made one wire. Let's go there. Basically, I'll just show an example. So this is the rod, whatever. The rods don't work on the grid because they could work, but I just decided to let it freeform. Or did I? I honestly don't know. Oh no, actually these ones are at an angle. I think they also work on the grid, but I just skipped them because I want them more organic. So let's say I place this one here, and I want to select this wire. There's a completely, or let's just find the wire meshes, electronic things, wires, wire holder. Yeah. Okay, so now I have this wire here. Said, okay, I would like this wire to go to this point. Let's go, let's be pedantic. So this wire is connected here. So I'll say I would like to connect to this thing here. It doesn't matter where it's placed, but this thing here. How do I connect them? In Blender, I made wires as a single object, again, much like most of the city, where they're already connected, they're properly textured and whatnot. Here I thought, screw it. There are things such as walls and props that have to have a certain textile density that always works, because player notices it, but not wires. No. So I decided to make the center on one end of the wire, turn off this, and basically look at the connecting wire, put into that direction, so like this, and for it to reach, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna turn off the step and just extend it like this, and now I'm like, oh, I need to have it to be lower, rotate in object space, oh, it needs to be longer. And there we have it, a minute and a wire is connected. And we have more credit on the screen, which doesn't do anything, but it's nice to look at. Also, let's say for some optimization, all these flags have the same one material with destruction and all. They were just placed on different areas of the, let's say, UV map. So certain parts, let's say this was put on the left, so it's destroyed on the right. This one was put on the right, so destroyed on the left. And then we have the middle part, which is destroyed basically everywhere, or let's say more destroyed. And there was the portion where I put it over, let's say, an edge. So I have two-sided flags, whatever these things are. Yeah, I think I'm done here. Thank you for watching. I enjoyed this project. I didn't enjoy working it under this weather, but it was a simulation. Yeah. Any questions you have, freely put them in the comments. Yeah. Again, I'm very bad at outros.